Welcome back to the It's Not So Late show, and today we are joined by Noah Deist, and you've probably seen him doing some cool looping stuff on TikTok. Noah, thank you so much for joining us here tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And so the first question I got to ask you is, you're in college, so how did you get into doing the looping aspect of music?
Um, it started kind of in high school. I've been in a couple of different bands where we, play in the basement and do the talent shows at school and stuff like that. And then all my musician friends kind of moved away and went off to college. So I went to a concert actually my senior year of high school, and it was just one guy and a loop pedal, and it was really awesome. I really loved it. I fell in love with it right there. So I ended up buying a loop pedal, and it allowed me to kind of still get that full band sound by myself. So kind of started my senior year of high school.
That's sweet. So for people who are listening who may not be familiar with the music terminology, can you explain a little bit about what is looping, what is a looping pedal, and how does it work?
Yeah. So live looping is basically um, it's done in a couple of different ways. I actually don't use a pedal anymore, but it's easier to explain through a pedal. So basically, I have my instruments running through this foot pedal that I click a button on. And when I click the button, it records whatever instrument I'm playing. And then I click another button and tell it to stop recording. And then the pedal itself takes that recording and plays it over and over again in a loop. So this allows me to play like four chords on a guitar, hit record, hit stop, and then it'll keep playing those four chords. And then I can jump on the bass and jump on the drums. And then pretty soon I have a full band sound through this loop pedal. I actually use a software now that allows me to do a little bit more than a loop pedal does, but it works essentially the same way.
So what does your software allow you to, what does it allow you to do that a looper machine or looper pedal doesn't?
Yeah, so the software I use is called Zen Audio ALK. And it basically just allows me to design everything beforehand with a loop pedal. Say I play a four measure guitar riff. The next recording that I make has to be four measures.
Mhm.
So if I want to add just like a simple like tambourine, I have to do that for four measures. And then the same is true for like bass or drums. It all has to be the same length in terms of how long the song is. And the loop pedal actually allows me to be a little bit more free with that. So I can do a four measure guitar chord progression, and then I can add like a measure drum thing. I can just do a quick like a count of a drum of a pad, a synth pad, and it'll keep looping it. Yeah, and it allows it allows a lot more freedom and uh, in terms of what songs I'm able to play. Because with a loop pedal, if the song changes chords between like the verse, the chorus, the bridge, then I can't do that song, or I have to stop the loop pedal and just play it on my own. Because if the chords change, I can't change the loop. With a software, I can actually record the verse, the chorus, and then design it to come in and out when I want it to,
Wow.
which is really awesome because it allows me to do a lot more songs than I could with just a loop pedal.
So is this something you can do live? I know said you saw a guy with a looping pedal, but is it possible to use your interface, your computer to do a live if someone wanted a song that does have that change in progression? Is that something that can be done?
Yes, actually, I've never. So I've done a ton of live shows with a actual physical loop pedal, um, and actually one of the main driving forces of me switching from a loop pedal to a software was the pandemic.
Mhm.
My school shut down, and I had all my gear at school, and it actually shut down over spring break. So I was at home on vacation basically for spring break, and only brought like five pairs of clothes and my laptop.
Wow.
And so then they shut down, and I wasn't able to get any of my music gear for probably like 2 or 3 months. And I didn't have my loop pedal, so I was looking for ways because I had a few things at home. I had like an electric guitar and a few things that I didn't bring to college. So I was looking for a way to loop without a pedal, and that's what brought it up. But actually, um, there's a big event this Friday at my college that I'm performing at. So it'll be the first time I'll ever have performed with this software. And I had to spend probably 3 hours trying to figure out how to get the software to be projected live.
Right.
Because the big thing with this software that I use is I play to a click track or a metronome. Because when I'm switching between instruments, it just allows me to stay in time so much easier. And I had a really hard time figuring out how to get the metronome in just my in ears and
Oh yeah.
not in the
Yep.
house. Um, and so I had to spend quite a bit of time figuring that out. But I think I got it figured out. So yes, it is something you can do live. Uh, but
That's
yeah.
cool. So when you started out this looping endeavor, because I know you make music as well, and I do want to talk about that next.
Mhm.
But I don't want. I want to also continue this. Is when you started this looping, how did you learn it? Because I know I have a looping machine. I use the RC30. There's no tutorials on there on how to do it.
Mhm.
Like I mean, there's tutorials on what the buttons do. This is start. This is stop. Double click this
Yeah,
like.
yeah, yeah.
But there's nobody that shows you how to do it, and most people don't realize it. It's a lot more difficult to do than you think. And make it sound good. So what I guess maybe like what was the first song you learned, or how did you teach yourself?
um, I don't think I ever learned like a song, the first song. I think I just played a bunch of chords and then practiced soloing. A big benefit of a loop pedal is just learning how to solo and stuff,
Right.
and being able to play by yourself. So I think that's probably how I learned initially. Is I practice so many times just trying to get that four chord progression to loop properly, um, and knowing when to play, and when to hit the start and the stop button so that it loops correctly. Um, I'm actually a drummer, so that's like what I started on. That's kind of my main instrument, the one that I'd say I'm best at. So that definitely helped. I would say I had a sense of time, if that makes any sense. Um, and yeah, so that's kind of how I got started. And I would say practice with the metronome, but with most loop pedals, they get off by like a millisecond or a
Wow.
couple milliseconds every time it goes around. So you can't actually play
Mhm.
with a physical loop pedal and a metronome because usually after 2 minutes the loop will be completely off of the track, not because you've played out of time, just because the
Right.
nature of the actual physical loop pedal is not as precise as a metronome is. But practicing with the metronome without a loop pedal will definitely help that.
Interesting. So I see you post these videos on TikTok. So what is your, I guess, creative process like? Because you have fantastic audio. So I'm guessing you're recording, you're doing some sort of editing. You're not, I highly doubt you're just plugging right into the phone. So what is your process like to make a TikTok?
uh, Quite extensive, and I'm really excited to be graduating, and I'm actually getting married
Oh,
in a couple of
congratulations.
months. And thank you. And we're renting a house, so I'll have my own studio space, which will be super nice. Because right now, I haul all my gear across campus to, which I'm super blessed that my school has a really state of the art recording studio and live room.
Wow.
So we have like the drum set and all the guitars and instruments you see me play are usually the schools. Sometimes I'll bring my own, but usually it's the schools. But I do have to basically tear down the room, set it up to what I the configuration that works for me. I have an audio interface that I run everything into. I run that into my looping software, and then I run usually an overhead mic for the drums, a kick mic for the drums, and then I'll do some sort of either electric or acoustic guitar, and then bass. And then I also have that big MIDI keyboard that you see in all my videos that can run synths, strings, electronic drums, triggers, stuff like that. So that's usually the process. And then I'll try to design the actual loop before I even go there. So with my looping software, I can actually open up a project and basically say, this is the tempo, this is the instruments I want. And then I have it's like a little pen tool that I can draw. This is where I want this instrument to start recording, and this is where I want it to loop, and for how long, and I can change that. and I can choose that for each instrument. So I'll design the actual loop beforehand, and then just go there and practice. And then I hit record on my phone. Um, and yeah, then I export the audio from the looping software and sync it with the video. And yeah, then that's basically it.
That is one heck of a process. So how long would you say that would take, you think? Maybe like the in studio time, because obviously I'm pre-setting everything, that takes a long time. But what did you say, like when you're like, between like when you're hitting record and when you get a TikTok posted, how long would you say that time is?
I usually don't. I had someone comment on one of my videos saying like, "Hey, you should post bloopers or whatever," and I was like, "That'd be funny," but I don't have any because I don't actually hit record. I usually practice for
Right.
hundreds of times before I actually hit record. So I would say each cover probably just the recording process probably 2 hours, which isn't. It used to be a lot more, but between setup, teardown, editing, and posting, it's a lot more. But I would say just the musical part, probably 2 hours per video.
Wow, that's only, you should make a TikTok explaining how long it makes you make a TikTok, because that's a cool story. Because I don't think people realize what goes into it, because you have such clean sound and you got to mic up all those instruments, you got to practice it, you got to record it, you got to hope the system actually listens to you. There's so much that goes into it. What would you
For
say is
sure.
the most difficult song that you've had to cover, and which one's been, I guess, maybe the easiest, or one that, like, if you were to do live, that would be like your go-to because you have it mastered?
Um, honestly, the same song comes to mind for both of those. I'm
Really?
actually performing Hall of Fame by the Script this Friday,
Oh,
um, and that's probably one of the hardest ones I've done, just because I don't play piano really. I play piano, but so learning that piano part was definitely pretty hard. Anything that involves like a super complex keys part is because I'm not a keys player. I'm a percussionist, so I know piano because we have to learn marimba and xylophone, which is basically a keyboard that you hit with sticks. So I know like chords and stuff, but I'm definitely not proficient in keys. So anything with keys is definitely hard, and anything with like a cool drum groove and just some guitar is probably my wheelhouse because that's what I'm most comfortable on.
that's awesome. That's awesome. Now I want to talk about your music, right? Because aside of doing looping,
Hmm.
I don't know. I genuinely don't know. Do you loop like your own music? Do you make like, is your own music done also with looping, or is it more so just like acoustic?
Yeah, so I would say there's really no connection between the two. I started making music before I started looping.
Right.
Um, yeah, and for a while I was like, all my songs were like, yes, it's me playing every instrument, and that's super cool, which it is cool. But as I've gotten older and more experience, I've learned to appreciate other people's opinions and other people's input, and other musicians actually helping with the process. And I think my music has gotten better because of that. But yeah, just songwriting, and um, I have several good friends who either own studios, or we have an on-campus recording studio here at college, um, and a full-time sound engineer that I'm good friends with. So we're actually recording a song together right now. Um, so between that, I sometimes will go into a studio and work with an audio engineer. The last two songs that I've released, I've actually fully produced myself.
Wow.
So recorded them and mixed and mastered them myself, which is really cool. But a big goal of mine this year is been to release 6 songs every other month,
Wow.
and between not 6 songs every month, 6 songs total, spaced out every other month.
But then every other month you're dropping six. I'm like, wow, like,
No,
wow, that's a
no, there's
lot.
no way I could do that.
I'm like, that's
But even with that, it's just I didn't want to lower the quality of the songs to keep pushing out more. So um, being able to work with more people and not have to rely on myself to produce every single one has been um, really relieving and fun, honestly.
right. So what type of so for people who may be new to your music, what type of music do you make? What's the type of sound, maybe like what type of other bands would you say you're in the realm of, just to give people a feel of what type of music you produce?
Yeah, I would say definitely in that pop, like singer-songwriter vibe. But I've got some songs that I'm working on that are kind of out of the box, different from what I am. But the ones that I have now definitely have like a travel vibe, like encouraging people to travel and live life to the fullest. I have a couple, love songs, and stuff like that. And I have some new stuff coming out that's very. One of the songs that will be dropping in a couple of weeks is I'm collabing with a producer, and it's very like EDM,
Ooh.
uh, really, really upbeat, fun electronic music. That song, and then this other one that I'm working on, which will probably drop sometime in the summer. I've it's got trumpet, it's
Ooh.
got trombone, saxophone. So it's definitely a different vibe. So I'm kind of in that phase where I'm figuring out what my sound is and experimenting with a bunch of stuff, seeing what sticks. But yeah, it's been fun.
So what's your process like? What's your songwriting and creating process like? Are you one of those people that has, an instrument of choice, what's the guitar, piano, or whatever, and you like find the progression, or you're just walking around, you're like, oh my God, idea, you whip out your phone, and then you get to then you're home, and then you're like, okay, I have the lyrics now. I need to like put the like instruments to it. How do you produce music in that regard?
I would say it's different every time. Um, I I feel like I've said this several times, but some songs I've written just come out in one night, and it's like the whole song. Other songs, it's like painful and like 3 months trying to finish it. So I have a different process for every time, but I usually start with a chord progression on the guitar, um, and then come up with a theme or an idea that I want to write about, whatever that topic is, and then kind of just start humming and coming up with melodies. And kind of similar to what I was saying with my earlier music was just me playing all the instruments, me writing all of the stuff. And I've definitely started adding more musicians and having other people play stuff. And the same is true with songwriting. I've definitely learned the value of like co-writing, and getting other people's inputs. And so I have several people that I send songs to, and I'm just like, hey, what do you think of this? What would you change? And it's very valuable, input. Sometimes I don't use it, sometimes I do, but just hearing other musicians' inputs and other songwriters' inputs, it's been very valuable, in the whole songwriting process.
So speaking of like hearing other inputs and in comparison, do you have any like musicians that inspire you, or or that maybe even inspired you to get into like the writing process, or like their sound that you like?
Yeah, um, I would say I talk about this with my friends a lot, but I don't have like a favorite song or like a favorite artist because it changes all the time as new music releases. But definitely people like Ed Sheeran, is a big, especially for like looping.
Yeah, I
I
was.
got to see him live
Uh,
back in 2018, and just seeing him sell out a whole stadium with just him and his guitar. So I would say he's definitely, and his sound is kind of a big inspiration.
he doesn't have a
And
band with him. It's all him.
yep, it's
That
just
dude
him
can
and
looping.
his acoustic guitar. Yeah,
Wow, really?
yeah,
I never knew that.
yep. It's it's pretty incredible what he's able to do. And it's not even him like switching instruments like me. It's he's on his acoustic guitar making all the sounds and everything.
That's impressive.
Obviously, he has an advanced audio team making things sound way better than I know how to do. But it was pretty cool just to see him. When you think big pop stars like Justin Bieber and Taylor Swift, you think like big light show dancers and a full band and this whole production. It was literally just him in a sweatshirt and jeans and a tiny little guitar, and he sold out an entire stadium. Um,
Wow.
so he's definitely a big inspiration of mine, and uh, a lot of smaller artists that most people wouldn't know, like Sean McConnell. I've been listening to a lot, and Need to Breathe, love them. Uh, those are just some ones that I'm thinking of on the top of my head, but so many different inspirations. And as I've been experimenting with different sounds, I've been taking like pieces and elements that I hear. I was like, oh, that's awesome. I should try something like that. So definitely a wide variety of influences.
That's awesome. So I like to ask people this question about like goals in the future. It's not going to be easy to answer because it's it's the future. What would you say,
Hmm.
like, where do you see yourself in like 5, 10, 15 years from now?
Um, well, I would say my long-term goal is definitely to be able to do this full time and make a livable income full time. Um, and I don't know if that's what that looks like in terms of time, whether that's, in the next year, the next 2 years, the next 5, 10 years. But that's definitely the long-term goal. Um, uh, but yeah, I don't see myself stopping doing this for any reason, even if it doesn't make me money, just because I love doing it. And right now I said I'm graduating college in a couple of weeks, so I'm looking for jobs. I'm getting ready to get married. So yeah, right now I'm kind of trying to figure all that out. I would say a goal in the next year of mine is to make enough to make this uh, pay for itself. Um, so right now I have a couple of different streams of income. I get paid from TikTok. I get paid from YouTube, from Spotify, Apple Music, all that. And right now, it's like enough to cover like gas and
Yeah.
like my subscriptions to Amazon and Spotify, which is it's awesome. I get to make $100 a month from TikTok videos, which is crazy. I say this on social media a lot. It's never been more realistic to want to chase like this thing of being a full-time musician than it is right now. Like 10 years ago, if you wanted to make music and for a living, you had to be signed to a record label because they're the only ones who could record and release music on CDs and on radio. And now anyone with connection to the internet and a laptop can make a charting single and make a full-time living. So it's never been more realistic to have that goal than it is today. And I don't see that changing. I see it actually growing. And I'm excited about that because it's it's not easier, I wouldn't say, but there's more opportunity for sure.
Right. And I think that's what a lot of people don't realize is like that, for example, what you and I are doing, right? Like with this pandemic, the great thing it's done is it's made these digital sources more accessible. It's made networking easier. It's made
Hmm.
accessibility like exactly that. A dream is like now achievable, right? Like 10 years ago, if we wanted to do music full time, like if you were to tell it 10 years ago, me like, oh, you're gonna be making it on this thing called Spotify, you're gonna be doing like virtual shows. What you know what I mean? And that's so true.
Hmm.
Like that that goal though. I like that. So like what is it about music that moves you? Like what do you love about making music? I know it's an unusual question.
um, I would say I don't know. It's an outlet for sure. Just like I don't know, people express themselves in different ways, and I don't even know if that's the right wording to say, but um, a simple example is like if I'm frustrated about something, or I have an outlet, I can write a song about it, or I can put my headphones on and go bang on the drums for 2 hours, and it's a stress reliever. It's an outlet. It's a way of telling stories, particularly like songwriting and writing my own music. That's a big thing, especially with like my major as a digital media production major. Um, Storytelling is something they teach in everything we do, and it's no different for songs. You're telling a story, um, and I love telling stories and making. If I've said this a couple of times, but it's like there's something special about having like a song to relate to when you're going through something, whether good or bad. There's something really special about that. So yeah, that's kind of an answer, not answer, but to
It's
the
good.
question.
That's a great answer, actually. And I want to talk. What inspired your choice of the major that you did? You coming like as a senior in high school, going into like freshman in college. Did you know going into it that's the major you wanted, or throughout your college process, it kind of came to you by maybe like a class or a professor or a friend?
Um, I took a couple of, it was like called audio visual classes in high school, and loved the teacher, loved doing stuff with him. So I think that's what initially made me think of it. And I love movies. And I think part of me was like, I'm going to be a Hollywood film director. So I'm going to go to uh, film school, because most of what I do is centered around filming stuff and videography and storytelling in that aspect. Um, I would say if I could go back, I would definitely change my major. I My university actually this just past year hired this full-time sound engineer that I was talking about, and she's really good at what she does, and she's kind of building out a audio program right now. So she's kind of teaching some classes now, but she's looking in the next couple of years to launch like a full degree of like audio engineering, and just like stuff in the music industry. So I would say I would probably do that if I were to do it over again. Not that I haven't enjoyed what I have been doing, but I think everyone, when they go to college, they kind of, as the years go by, you figure out what you like, what you don't like. Um, yeah, but that's
Uh,
my
uh,
area.
that's awesome. So you're talking about movies. I guess it'd be remiss if I didn't ask you, what's your favorite movie or TV show? Um,
Oof. In terms of just like pure enjoyment and like fandom, I would say like Marvel. I'm a
oh,
huge Marvel fan, so I love the whole MCU. In terms of just like high quality films, like Oscar stuff, I would probably say like Get Out or Inception, movies like that. Really big fan of Christopher Nolan. Um, so yeah, but I'm a huge like Star Wars, Marvel comic book guy, so I love all
I love those.
those nerd movies.
No, those are fun movies though. They keep getting better. But as technology gets on, Star Wars pretty soon is gonna be like in 4D. You're gonna have like the Star Wars character like walking around your dorm room like shooting each other like as you're wearing like
Yeah,
VR glasses. So that wouldn't be
for
so
sure.
nice.
That would be sick.
Yeah, it would be. So like for people getting started, because I know a lot of people who listen to my podcast are people who might be interested in getting started in music. So where do you recommend someone begin in the music industry?
Uh, it's kind of the first thing I think of is just to start. Um, I think that's just the hardest part. Is just so many people get fixated on, creating the perfect cover or writing the perfect song or making sure the song is mixed perfectly. Um, and uh, I heard this story on a video one time where it was like, um, there was an art class, and the art class was split into two groups. The first group was told that they would be graded on how many pots they created throughout the semester. So their whole goal was to create as many as they could as fast as they could. And the other group was told that they would be graded on one single pot. And so they had to spend the whole time perfecting that one pot. And at the end of the semester, the group who made as many as they could as fast as they could ended up producing a better final product than the one who fixated on just the one, because the group who did as many as they could learned through the process. They grew, and as they did it more and more, they got better at it. They learned the techniques, and I would say the same is true with any aspect of life, especially the music industry. Is don't get so caught up in making sure the one cover is perfect, because you'll learn as you go. So yeah, it's you just got to get into it and start. And the biggest thing that I've found, there's strategies for each platform you use and each avenue you try to go down. But I think something that's consistent across all of them is just consistency.
Yeah.
If you want to make it in any area, you have to be consistent. Whether that's posting content or writing music, releasing music, consistency. So yeah, those are my two pieces that I think I've found over doing this over the last couple of years.
I like that. And I can agree with you on both of them, especially consistency. It's consistency is sometimes our worst nightmare because it's painful, right? You do 2 hours to make a video and then you're like, oh wow, okay, it's now 9 p.m. Oh, that's right. I have to record one for tomorrow. You're like, ah, but it's so
Yep.
true though. Consistency, like especially in like this digital age, it's like they want to see you every day, which is awesome. I think it's great
Hmm.
that with technology we can reach, all these new people. Now, has that opened up some doors too? Has TikTok and things like that opened up some new creative opportunities for you?
For sure. Yeah. Um, I've been able to talk to, collab, and songwrite and do all kinds of things with other artists, musicians that probably never would have uh, opened a message from me otherwise. And yeah, I actually got to join. It's called the TikTok Creator Marketplace right now,
Oh yeah.
and it's basically where companies and brands can join this huge marketplace, and they can literally go on the backside of TikTok and type in like, I'm looking for someone in this niche, who's this age, who has this many followers, this many likes, and
Wow.
this many videos, and TikTok will show them all the creators that are in that, and then they'll reach out to them, and whether it be sponsor them for this or that, or pay them to promote their product. So I got to join that earlier this year, and have had conversations with a couple of different brands and companies that never would have happened without TikTok, which is insane because I feel like TikTok had this, still kind of does, but way less so. This like perception of that cringe
Mhm.
dancing app,
Oh,
and now I think it's one of the most powerful social media platforms out there,
I think
especially
so.
for musicians, because when people ask me like, what can I be doing to grow or to be successful in the music industry? It's like you got to be on TikTok
TikTok,
because there is no other platform out there that people scroll through with the sound on intentionally.
right?
Like you don't scroll through TikTok with the sound off because it doesn't make sense. Half the TikToks are sound, like they're revolved around sound. And as a musician trying to sell audio, what better platform? Like Instagram definitely has audio features, but not all people scroll through that with the sound on. So
Right.
I think TikTok was overlooked for a very long time. And now even the music industry is starting to catch on with how powerful the platform is. And you can tell that just by looking at the Grammys this past year, and all the top charting songs
Mhm.
came from TikTok, or at least blew up on TikTok. So yeah.
I think you're right. I think I think it has a bad like rep. I tell people I do TikTok, and they're like, oh, so I have to be like, oh yeah, I do social media influence. Like, oh, that's cool, because if I say I'm a TikToker, they give me that look like, really? And they're like, what do you do? And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I'm like, that's good. But it's a fantastic networking tool because I've noticed that like Instagram, a lot of people have people running their Instagrams for them. But on TikTok, I've noticed when people are joining, I'd say 9 out of 10, they're running their accounts. So you get access directly to the creators, like in the
Hmm.
comments. That's what I do is I look through the comments. I see some like they respond. It's awesome. Because like that, I've gotten as well, like great deals and like that. I joined TikTok literally as a joke, because like I'm
Yeah,
sure
same.
you at one point your friends like join us, you're like, oh come on now. You're like,
Yeah,
oh, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. And you're like, wow, it works, and then you're telling your
yeah,
friends, hey, you should join TikTok. And they're giving you the same thing that you gave them, like I'm doubtful.
yeah.
It
Sure, I've
has.
definitely noticed that, like, just with, like, even non-music related, just, like, seeing, like, brands are now on TikTok, like, commenting, like, engaging with, people, which I think is super awesome when creators and big brands can, like, actually engage with people.
Yeah, and like it's a marketing tool. I just think a lot of people just don't realize that, who aren't on
Mhm,
it. But it's fantastic, and I would like highly recommend it. And I
yeah.
want to say thank you too for joining me today. And would you be able to like perform a song or two? Is that possible?
Yeah, yeah, I got, I mentioned, the cover of Hall of Fame by the script that I think is pretty awesome that I could, throw together here.
That'd be awesome. I appreciate it. And where can people find you, Noah? Like, where, if people here are unfamiliar with Noah Deist and your music, where can they find you?
Yeah, I'm on almost every social media platform. Just search Noah Deist, Deist, as well. Same on Spotify, Apple Music, all that. So yeah.
That's awesome. And do you have I always end on this. Do you have a favorite quote or just a word of advice that you want to end the show with?
I think I would just reference back to that little story I was telling about the art class and making the pots, just uh, learning as you go versus being obsessive over one thing and never being able to get past it. So I think that's probably my biggest advice, and probably the biggest thing that I've learned just over the last year is letting go of some of those little things so that you can grow.
Well, thank you. Now we get to enjoy Noah Dice performing the Hall of Fame by the Scripts. Thank you so much for joining me today, Noah.
Yeah, thank you.